Hey guys, welcome to the Rat Grind. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is June 28th. Actually, it's already June 29th. It's already past midnight. It's about 12:33 a.m. here in Southern California. I know it's late, but thank you so much for joining me on today's video. Today, there's a lot of things that happen in the market, but I wasn't able to do a video earlier because, like I told you guys in yesterday's video, I had an event that I had to attend to this evening. So I'm, getting home late, and I want to make sure that the news that I read throughout the day hasn't changed much, or whatever happened. And just as I was heading home, I checked the markets and it seems like it crashed even more than it did earlier. So we're going to talk all about that. So if this is your first time on this channel, thank you so much for joining me. Please do subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you know every time I put out new content for you guys, as well as smash the likes. Hit those thumbs up, guys, please. Guys and gals, please do so. It helps me get motivated and continue producing these videos for you guys. And I also look forward to hearing your comments. I really appreciate the back and forth that I have with some of you. Not necessarily on the comments, but maybe offline in the groups that you are watching this content from. I really appreciate the back and forth because it gives me a lot more insight. Because I'm coming through these news in the crypto markets, these TAs that I do from my own perspective, and there's a lot of things that I simply don't know that I appreciate learning from the community as well. So really thank you for that. And please, just one final reminder that this is not financial advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Please do not trade. I don't want you to lose money because of an advice that you took from me, and I didn't provide you, or we both perceive the information differently and we made the wrong call. So please do your own research, really study the coins, the opportunities that you find, and only invest in the coins or projects and cryptocurrencies that you find value in. All right, so let's talk about what happened today. So first of all, the crypto markets broke downwards today, and even more as I was heading home from the event that I was in. It seems like there was a lot of FUD about Tether hit with a double spend attack, and that's potentially a false FUD that I'm going to give you guys an update on. I read that earlier today, but I needed to dig even more because I just couldn't figure out how that could happen. So I was able to find some news that I'm going to share with you guys so that you guys can have some clarity, because a lot of you may be wondering about this particular news. Also, Bitcoin and Ethereum got rejected on the EMA resistance line, and we headed down lower. I mean, I updated my analysis a little bit when I looked at what transpired as I was out of my computer, and I wasn't able to check because I had a long meeting today at work right before I left, before I headed to the event that I was going to go to. So I wasn't able to really check in much on what was happening. I just checked it briefly and saw that it was a big red candle that was heading down. So I got a chance to look at that a little bit more this evening, and we're going to look at it together and see things that I may not have seen yet, because I wanted to get this video out to you guys right away. So for some practical coin news, Silk Road founder Dead Pirate Roberts was rejected today by the Supreme Court, unfortunately. So we're going to talk about that news briefly. Also, Bithumb recovered half of the hack crypto that we reported on a couple of videos ago. Bithumb is, I think, the 10th largest exchange in the world. It's one of South Korea's largest exchanges. So that's very significant news because Korea provides a lot of liquidity, a lot of volume in the market because they're actively invested in cryptocurrencies. Another bit of news is IBM and Walmart and a few other companies, major companies, are partnering up to track food supply on the blockchain. So that's really great, because that's another usable use case of not necessarily just Bitcoin, but blockchain in general, that is on the practical side. So we're going to report on that news. We're going to talk about it. Also, just wanted to kind of give you guys an update that tomorrow, June 29th, is the end of the BTC CME futures, which expires tomorrow, and it's going to settle, I believe, on the 3rd or on the 4th of July. But the trading, the shorts, the future positions expires tomorrow. So look at that potentially to have some bearing on what's happening in the crypto market. And the last bit of news is actually another. This was how I started my day today when I read this particular news, and I thought, wow, this is good. If people understand this particular news, this is a really, really bullish signal of the actual practicality and use case of Bitcoin itself. So $300 million worth of Bitcoin was transferred today for only 4 cents as the fee. So think about that. Imagine if you had to transfer $300 million to from the traditional financial institutions. How much would that cost, and how long would that take? It took minutes, and it was only 4 cents. So that, I mean, I made a mistake here. I put 0.004. I'm getting used to Bitcoin cryptocurrencies with multiple zeros, so that's actually 4 cents, not 0.04 cents. All right, so we're going to talk about that right now. We're going to head to the charts, guys. So you'll see behind me, guys, ladies and gentlemen, please, refer to the screen behind me. You'll see that everything is back in the red again. We were looking at this yesterday, that there wasn't much of a movement. It was consolidating sideways. We saw that, the percentage gains and percentage losses were within sometimes 0.5%, 1%, or a couple of percentage points. But today there's some significant drop, although not double digits for a majority of them. Significant nonetheless, because every inch that we try to go up, it seems like bear pressure just keeps us down, guys. I mean, that's really disheartening. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. Looking at the markets, seeing this transpire over this entire year so far, 6 months of this nonstop. We get some bull volume, and all of a sudden we get knocked out, right? It's just, we get back up and we get kicked back down. So it's like, it's kind of insulting in a way. It's like you feel sometimes that you're already down, and the market just kicks you in the face even more when you're just looking up, not even trying to get up, but just looking up, and the market just kicks you right in the tooth. So that's really, really horrible. But we're going to look at CoinMarketCap right now. So as you can see, on CoinMarketCap, our today is $236 billion. So we're decreasing overall market liquidity in the crypto space. So that's not a great thing. And I think a lot of this goes back to, excuse me, like Bithumb. They have stopped some of the transactions from happening, withdrawals and stuff like that. So of course that limits the volume, but that's only one. But of course there's a lot of other factors that are coming into the space that are potentially causing this. I mean, with the OTC, OTCs are good because it allows institutional investors to buy in without really affecting the price. But then again, if you look at it, because they're buying it over the counter, those are not going through the exchanges, like I keep telling you guys. So there's no positive buy movements, that buy volumes that we can buyers see within the exchanges, so that it doesn't give them the confidence to be able to buy in. I mean, every single news out there, maybe not every single one, but the vast majority of the news that we receive in the crypto space very recently, news, even financial institutions, even the large market traders and market experts really see a lot of positive things that have been happening in our space. But for some reason, we just keep dropping. Today's 24-hour volume again is low, $11.8 billion, and Bitcoin's dominance increased. We're almost at 43%. So that's not good for the rest of the market. That means that there's a lot of capitulation that's happening, guys. I mean, people are just selling off and not buying back in, or just withdrawing their fiat currencies and just not getting back in. I know there's a lot of, like India, there's a lot of things that are going on there. There's a lot of uncertainty. So this is just very unfortunate that, there's not much volume that's happening. But a lot of the downturn, it seems like it's because of a Tether fund. Tether was reported earlier today that they had a double spend. They were attacked double spend problem. Because basically you put in your money in an exchange, and allows you to use your Tether and then pretend as if that didn't happen. So I was able to dig up some news today about this particular thing. We'll just go sideways here a little bit before we go back into looking at the charts. this was reported on Finder today, and Tether hit with successful double spend attack, security firm says, and it was a Chinese security firm, Chinese cybersecurity firm, Slow Mist. They announced on their Twitter, right? So they talked about all of this, that basically USDT, they were able to recharge it and all that stuff. But there was an update later this evening. It says that the Omni founder has said on Reddit that it may not be an actual double spend attack, and there may not have been any lost funds. It looks to him like just poor integration by an exchange. In general, I designed Omni so that the double spend an Omni in general, I designed Omni so that to double spend an Omni asset, you would have to double spend Bitcoin, he said. If I'm translating this correctly, it appears that what happened here is that an exchange wasn't checking the valid flags on the transaction. They accepted a transaction with a valid false. It's false, not true, which they should not have. And then the second double spend transaction had valid equals true. These are variables that are put into the code to be able to identify if a transaction is good or bad, right? Which they also accepted. Unless I'm missing something, this is just poor exchange integration. So what is Omni? Omni is a second layer built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. The Tether token is built on the Omni layer. So that's just for clarification, guys. If you feel that there's you're worried about Tether double spend problems with all the rest of the problems that we're having in the crypto space, with that update, of course, that's not 100%, but the Omni developer themselves, the founder of Omni, is saying that already and is clarifying it for us. So I think it's just an exchange problem, the way they code things sometimes. These things happen because if you haven't looked at code, you're looking at sometimes millions of lines of code to be able to find that one single variable that you did not check on. So that is something that it does happen. I mean, I've coded things in the past where I couldn't figure out for days or weeks on end what the problem was, and I just forgot to close a particular syntax. And it happens, guys, because you're looking at all of this. I know there's softwares to be able to check all this, but sometimes when lines and lines and lines of code are in a particular program, these things happen. So please, take that, do more research about it. But I just want to kind of give you guys an update on that particular Tether FUD so that it kind of calms you guys down if it is something that you are worried about and it's causing you grief, and maybe that's causing some of the market sell-off and stuff like that. So because even Tether was down today, right? So for some reason, maybe they're putting it out of cryptocurrency in general. They're just pulling their money out and not even putting it in Tether, because even Tether was down, like I said. So there's a lot of things that are happening here that we're unsure of, right? So just want to kind of give you that information. So let's go to the charts, guys. So I'm looking at Bitcoin, right? I was looking at it. It's basically, if you look here, we almost hit the lows that we hit the other day, right? It bounced and it did not quite make it down there. So that's a really, really good sign. I mean, the indicators were more clear when we were looking at it yesterday in the last couple of days, that I find more, even just a tad bit more bullish indications on Bitcoin than I do for Ethereum. And Ethereum, as we'll look at it, it's even worse because it went down even more. So that is something that could potentially continue its downward spiral. But, looking at this, I really didn't expect it to drop even more. But I posted on Facebook yesterday, I was asking, do people see a bear flag? Because that's what I was seeing. It's not a clear-cut bear flag that I was able to see, but it's there nonetheless, right? But usually a bear flag on a bearish cycle usually is a continuation pattern where it's going to see even lower lows, right? So that's exactly what happened. But we were able to get picked back up. I'm looking at the 1 hour chart. If we look at the 4 hour chart, you can see that we need to be able to really, break through this area right here, about the 6,200, 6,300 line. If we can't break through that, then we're gonna, consolidate more or even continue a continuous downturn. Hopefully, it doesn't look like we're gonna hit the lower lower levels that we were able to hit earlier this week, but we don't know. We can't really tell. I mean, I'm looking at yesterday we were looking at the MACD. MACDs are they're lagging indicators, so the market already presents us a price, and the MACD shows us what that is. But that's why I like looking at the stochastics and also the RSI, because the RSI and the stochastics are more leading indicators, meaning that they're trying to give you more of a prediction of where it could probably go, not an exact thing, but where it could probably go. And we were looking at this yesterday, right? So let me just look at the 1-day chart, because that's what we were looking at yesterday. So if we look at the MACD yesterday, we were looking at this and we were already pointing up, right? But as we can see, it never quite broke through that red line, and it just bounced off that and proceeded downwards. But if we look at the RSI, again, this is another bearish momentum right here. If we can see, whenever we see these bearish divergence, that shows us that's where the direction is. Whenever it's going down, it's forming lower lows, then that just shows us that, hey, that's really a really bad sign. So what I do then is I look at the 1-week chart. I keep going out so that I can be able to basically, when things are doing well or doing bad, right? On the 5-minute chart, I go out and see the 30-minute, 1 hour, 4 hour, 1 day, 1 week time frame, just to be able to see on a more macro level potentially where the markets could be headed. And I again look at the RSI, the MACD, and as well as the stochastics, so that I can have more of a better guesstimate of where the markets could potentially be headed next, right? So if we change this, we look at the 1-week chart. This is very interesting. We're not quite in the oversold levels yet, but realistically, if you look at this, guys, check this out, right? This is the entire history, not entire history, but pretty much the availability of information here on TradingView, right? We've never had this much weeks of just downward momentum. Look at that, guys. That's just horrible. But the good thing about this is at least the sell-off is slowing down. But again, it picked back up a little bit here, and we need to be able to go in above this the histogram line, above the 0 line. And if we look at the RSI levels, we've never actually hit all the way down to oversold levels on the weekly chart. But if we look at the stochastics, as you can see, this is looking all the way back to 2015. We are considerably oversold based on this particular chart, right? So that is a really bearish signal to me. But again, there's a lot of factors in this, but if the main positive sign that I see here when I look at the 1-week chart is that there isn't much selling volume. If you can look at this, guys, this whole week the selling momentum was less. It's just that there's not a lot of volatility in the market. There's not a lot of money that is being brought into the space. So the trading is just really low, and I know a lot of you guys are holding your crypto, and I understand, and that's what that's what you really believe in. But that the lack of trading volume within the cryptocurrency markets, Bitcoin specifically, promotes that there's not much utility to it. Because think about this, guys. I know a lot of you are in the HODL community, right? And so am I. I HODL a lot of the cryptocurrencies that I have, but I also have a lot of coins that I do trade on a day-to-day basis, right? Or swing trade, position trade, weekly, monthly, whatever, right? But just keep in mind that if we hold all the coins, right, how are we supposed to make Bitcoin a currency that will be used transactionally on a day-to-day basis? How practical is that? So just kind of keep that in mind. I'm not telling you guys that that you change how you feel or how you think about it, but just consider that. Just consider that If you disagree, I respect that, but I just, from a practical standpoint, if people don't release the coins, then there's nothing to buy. And so, you know people, because the demand is, decreases, and so, there's not going to be a lot of buying volume that's going to happen, that's going to negate all the selling volume that all the shorters are trying to do, right? Because the shorting market, they're using leverage and margins to be able to short the market. So you have to understand that that's what they're doing, and there's not a lot of people that really understand how to short as well as how to go long on leveraging, right? So that is something that majority of the newer retail investors in this particular space don't really get to do. So just kind of keep that in mind. But again, let's just quickly go back. I know we're spending a lot of time just on this chart alone, but we need to be able to break through this 600. We need to end at least the next week. We can't go below the 5,700, 5,800 line, and we need to be able to close within 6,000 itself. So that's something that we need to be able to do. Let's quickly look at Ethereum. Sorry, guys. Ethereum on Bitfinex. Oops, not Ethereum. I need USD. Sorry about that. My fingers are just going crazy right now. All right, so if we look at Ethereum itself, again, I saw we're still on a flag here, right? This is a bull flag on a longer time frame. So that's what I see, that it could potentially be looking at the day charts, right? The past couple of days, it's a continuation pattern. Hopefully we could be able to break up above this, but we saw this wedge, and it broke through that wedge, and that's what formed this lower low. But today, we haven't been this low since back in April 12th, right? That's the last time we were at this price range. So there's really not much support after this line, and we could potentially go all the way down here, which would be the lowest we have is early April, right? So we have a really good level of support on the 360 line. I don't really feel that it's going to break off and go lower than that, because if we look at the 1 week chart, there really isn't much selling volume, as you can see. On the weekly charts, it's really going down, but we can't really tell 100% for certain. But just looking at the indicators, looking at what the markets are telling us, looking what the charts are telling us, it's very clear that the selling volume, the selling momentum is decreasing. So that's really, really good. We need the bulls to come out and start buying this stuff right now so that we can be able to pick back up. But there's really nothing to prevent us from going down right now, but we do need to be able to, if ever we hit down to 360, that's when I'm loading up on more of these on this particular asset. And if it breaks, it breaks. I mean, that's sort of, it does happen, but I like it at this price right now. I'm starting to stagger my buying opportunities right now. So just keep that in mind when you get in on this space. And we need for it to break above. Let me look at here. So right now we needed to break above about 440. If we can get back up to 440, and after that 460, and then for about 500. So that's sort of the trajectory that we need to be able to hit and break through those milestones. All right. So that's pretty much it. That's all the news that I have for the charts. We're going to look at the news real quick. We're already at 24 minutes, so I want to keep this within 30 to 35 minutes. So we're going to breeze through the rest of the news, guys. All right. Just 1 second. So like I said, the first bit of news that I want to cover today is the Supreme Court rejected the appeal of Ross Ulbricht. He's Dead Pirate Robert. He's basically the man behind the Silk Road, right? He was put away. Here's the complete news. Oh, sorry about that. Where did that go? I may have accidentally closed that window. But anyhow, so he's basically in prison um he's sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, because he was, realistically, the judge made an example of him within our crypto space. And it's very unfortunate, because it's like, imagine Craigslist, the owner of Craigslist. And by all means, I'm not saying that what he did was right, but at the same time, imagine if with all the like prostitution, drug sales that happen on Craigslist, imagine the government going after the founder of Craigslist. How would And then putting them away for life? Although, because of the fact that his transactions were, they really watched him, and he tried to hide it, but that's really the main reason why. And there was a lot of just bad things that happened within that whole investigation that caused the judge to really hammer down on the sentence of him. And the appeal, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are trying to fight the system and trying to get an appeal on the table. And at this point, it's a lost cause, because the Supreme Court already went down and just basically just kiboshed the whole thing. So basically, there's really, I don't know, from a legal standpoint, I'm not a lawyer, if there's other appeals that they can have, but already the Supreme Court already shut it down, so it's probably not going to go anywhere. But it's very unfortunate, because this is, he took he took a lot of heat for the rest of us to be able to do what we do, right? So it's just an unfortunate thing, but hopefully, there's still some hope for him. But at this point, it looks like it's pretty much dead in the water. So he's probably going to spend the rest of his life in jail. So that's really unfortunate for him. So I'm sorry for all those that are affected by that, but it is what it is. The next bit of news that I want to be able to cover is Bithumb is claiming that they have already retrieved $14 million in the hack cryptos. I think the overall hack crypto value was about $31 million. So it's a good thing that they were able to recover this. And the reason they were able to recover this, because this is the thing about cryptocurrencies that a lot of people may or may not understand. Yes, there's a lot of anonymity that is available for cryptocurrencies, but when people work in conjunction with each other, and the wallet addresses, you'll be able to transact. You'll be able to track where the transactions head. And it seems Bithumb worked with a few other exchanges that potentially these launderers were moving the crypto assets to and trying to launder them there, and they were able to prevent that from being laundered further. So being able to at least recover half is a wonderful thing. And as far as the people that were affected are concerned, Bithumb has committed to giving them back their money anyway. So it's just a good thing for them, so that at least they don't have to give more money out away as insurance payments to people that were affected. So that's really, really great news. But the withdrawals and the transactions, they're still, trying to clamor down on that. And that could also be a potential of the lack of transactions or a lack of volume that's happening in the crypto space, due to that as well. They only trade about, I think, maybe $100 or so million, but still, that's $100 million that we could have right now that maybe we're not having. So just keep that in mind. Also, Walmart, IBM, and a few other companies, Nestle, Kroger's, Dole, Discros, Golden State Foods, McLean, Tyson Foods, Unilever, are all partnering so that they can be able to track, using the blockchain, where the food is coming from and where it's going. They were able to implement this. They were saying they wish they were able to implement this in the last E. coli breakout here in the US, so that they could be able to trace where the food went and where the food came from. But moving forward, they will be able to do this. They said that this is from the vice president of Walmart's food safety, Frank Yanis. He said, by working with the Food Trust blockchain, it's like an equivalent of FedEx tracking for food. You're capturing real-time data at every point on every single food product. So that's really, really good for us. And that's another practical use case of what the blockchain provides, not just the financial sector, but a lot of the different sectors in the market as well. That's a very, very great use case, because of the fact that there's a lot of responsibility to be had when there's sickness or there's like breakouts, E. coli, and all these salmonella outbreaks that happen when you buy these, you think safe products in your grocery store. So if Walmart is doing that, then potentially they'll be able to trace back and prevent further damage to health, to people potentially losing their life or getting extremely hospitalized and stuff like that, using the blockchain technology. So the next bit of news, and just I want to kind of give you guys an update. It's tomorrow, as you can see here, June 29th is the last trading for Bitcoin futures on CME, right? I just want to kind of keep that in mind to see what happens tomorrow. Maybe that could be a catalyst for why it's being pushed down even more, because the people are just trying to get out of their position. But they may short it down as low it can go, and then they could be able to buy long positions moving forward, in the next year or so. So that is something that could potentially be the reason why it's another reason why the markets are being pushed down. So one of the biggest news that I want to be able to share with you guys today is this: Whale moves 48,000 Bitcoin for 4 cents in fees as scaling solution develops. I mean, there's a lot of news about this that are going around in the space itself, but I honed in on this in particular. This is crazy. I mean, think about that. I talked to you guys about that earlier. Imagine if you had to move about $300 million through the traditional banking system. How long and how much arbitration, how much clearing houses, how much just man hours or manpower would be involved in trying to get that large sum of money moved. And here it was just moved in an instant for 4 cents. That is quite amazing. And you can look at that. If you can pause this video, you can look at this a little bit more. Here's the complete transaction address. I'm going to link this on the description below so that you can be able to see this whole thing. But as you can see, like here's the fee. That's how much they moved. That is amazing. They basically moved it for about 80,000 sats, even though they were able to move 48.5 thousand Bitcoin, right? So that is quite amazing to see. And think about it. A Twitter user with the handle of Marty Ben said, "Can you imagine trying to move 300 million for 4 cents using traditional banking?" No, you can't. And that's exactly what I was telling you. And that's the sentiment that he was able to provide. And, scaling solutions with segregated witness, as well as the Lightning Network, will provide this even more. There's another quote here that I wanted to read to you guys. Is around the announcement of the Blockstream store, the Lightning Network had a total of 46 open channels on 0.682 BTC in capacity. Today, there's roughly about 78,000. Compare that to 46 before. 7,800 open channels with 26 Bitcoin in capacity. That's a 16,856 increase in channels and 4,084 increase in channel capacity just within 6 months. So, I mean, I know that doing the Lightning Network on-chain, off-chain type of stuff really kind of moves away from the decentralization part of things. But I think realistically, that's where we need to be able to head. I'm not sure if that's exactly the final end-all be-all solution. But it's really a good sign, because with that, Ethereum is looking at charting, plasma, and all that stuff to be able to scale up. And because that's really what we need to be able to do, so that we can be able to transact in real time and without having to wait from mempools and rejections and 10 minutes for a new block to be created and all that stuff. So that is really, really bullish news. And again, that's another notch in the belt of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin's utility in particular. So that's all the news. There's a lot more news to transpire today, but that's pretty much that I'm going to cover. Those are the most important news. But look at read up more on the blockchain EOS. Also, that the new governor that's running in New York is trying to kibosh the bit license that was enacted about 3 or 5 years ago now. My dates are a little bit mixed up, but that is something that I suggest you look into as well. And there's another news about blockchain potentially helping homeless people because of lack of IDs within the homeless people, right? So that's another news that I was able to read that I'm not going to report fully today, but go ahead and I'm going to link them on the description below so that you can read up on them as well. All right, so that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for your time today. We're at 35 minutes long. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to get back into my reporting tomorrow. We'll see how this heads into the weekend, and potentially, you look at the opportunities. There are always opportunities for you to be able to buy the dips and find the best prices on some of these projects that you are. And if you're trading, there are opportunities to trade, make small gains, scalp here and there, find those pockets of opportunities for you to be able to make even just minute gains, which can add up to some significant gains in the long run, right? Well, thank you again so much for your time today. Until I see you guys on the next video, I wish you and your family a success-filled day. Good night, guys. Love you. Bye.